Hello everybody and welcome to the FDP by Android Authority, discussing topics in Android every single week. I am of course your host for the FDP, Joshua Vergara. What's going on everybody? And this week we had another live episode, a very fun one with a couple of special guests. We were able to get Darcy back on because Darcy and I were here in China, in specific Beijing and Shenzhen, with Oppo for the launch of their brand new R7 and R7 Plus. I hope you guys enjoyed those videos already, taking a look at the phone for the first time. It's a pretty nice phone, and we're looking forward to our full reviews of them in the coming weeks. But we were able to get together at the end of the day at a hotel bar and be able to talk about really just what we thought about the event, the factory tour that we actually got with Oppo, and that video is coming very soon as well, and our thoughts on the phone itself. We were joined by Jaime Rivera of Pocketnow and also James Pickham from I hope I'm saying that right, James, I'm sorry. James from TechRadar, and we did have a couple of other people basically watching our podcast, so we had an audience for the first time on the FDP, and you're going to hear who they were at the end of the podcast. But the four of us were able to talk for quite a while, and we even were able to have a couple of drinks around, and you'll hear it at the end. We had a toast during our outro to this particular episode. I'm actually standing in the Hong Kong airport right now, Hong Kong International, HKG, and I'm on my way back home to Los Angeles. So this week you're actually getting a double feature of the FDP. You're getting last week's episode as well, which is our Ask Us Anything episode. So I hope you guys enjoy that as well. And the reason why I had to do a double feature this week is because last week when I was finishing up the podcast, I was actually in the air and didn't have any chances to upload the podcast. But without any further ado, we have this episode of the FDP, the Oppo R7 and R7 Plus. Not to mention also our factory tour and office visits with Oppo. Hope you guys enjoy. Yeah, I know we've been talking about the phone and all this stuff that's been going on over the past couple of days, but I'm curious to hear what everyone was talking about, what everyone felt about the factory tour.
I'm shocked.
Yeah. Shocked?
I'm shocked. Well, this is my first factory experience, ever.
Really?
Yeah, it is. It's something that I've always wanted to do. I guess from the photos I've seen from Foxconn and all these other factories, I was expecting something more rudimentary, something more basic. I mean, I didn't think that Oppo was this big. Yeah. Or at least this fancy. I mean, they don't outsource anything. They do everything themselves.
Yeah.
I guess our biggest problem is that we're not their target. Probably you are in Singapore. But then the rest of us in the United States and in Latin America, we don't really see Oppo products there. But it does seem that they do understand their market, that they are focused well on their market, and they are catering as well as they can. And for me, it's interesting. Nowadays, most companies just focus on making money, and making money is outsourcing everything, sharing the responsibility, not having all these assets in order for you to drop your bottom line, not pay so many taxes and this and this and that. And here's a company that's doing everything backwards in a more intimate way with employees, with the production cycle, with commitments. And I've known very few companies that do this, but the companies that do are the ones that have grown substantially over the years. Like I worked for one, UPS. UPS is one of those companies where they do everything. Yeah. They don't outsource anything. And this is a company that's survived for 110 years. Yeah. So I do feel that for a company that's this young, 10 years, and for them to have a facility that looks this good, for them to have all the processes and all the test procedures that they have now at such infancy for me, it was shocking. I was like, I didn't expect to see something so good.
Well, we got in a whole day late because, this place was flooded. But
I know.
But the thing is, obviously there was a very limited amount of time, but and obviously when it comes to stuff like this, they're only going to show us a snapshot of what the entire operation is. But you can't help but just think of the scope.
Yeah.
That was one floor.
Yeah, we saw maybe 800 to 1,000 people, and there's 20,000 people.
Oh yeah, oh my god. Yeah. It's crazy. Then the testing procedures and everything.
I mean, just speaking to what Jaime was saying though, being shocked, when we attended Huawei's media tour, they wouldn't even let us photograph or videotape anything.
Yeah, this was incredibly gracious media tour. Like
They were just so
tour.
transparent. It was kind of shocking, and they made it very clear that nothing that was shown to us was proprietary by any means. But I mean, we were like up front and center with, you know, the very materials that they use. You know, every single step of the way. Like they're actually manufacturing every single element and going through all that quality testing.
Yeah. I mean, how many companies use an ODM right now?
HTC does.
It's extremely common for companies to use ODMs, to share responsibilities, and to not be part of the whole process. You know, I mean, even clothing companies. I mean, Tommy Hilfiger, whatever brand you can think of.
Gucci, Chanel, Prada, Louis Vuitton.
All they do is they look for an ODM, they show them a couple of samples, and they're like, oh, I'll buy this, I'll buy this, I'll buy this. But it's not really their creative process. It's not really their manufacturing process. And I really commend companies that are willing to go the extra mile.
Yeah.
It makes a difference at the end of the day. You know,
You're not going to turn an Oppo phone over and see like designed in California. You know, it's like
no.
You're taking a jab at the big A. Big a-hole.
But you know, it's really easy for a brand to be diluted in a market like this one, given how much competition there is. And
absolutely.
And the last thing you could say about an Oppo product is that it's cheap.
It never feels cheap.
No.
I mean, we're looking at like basically a super mid-range phone that's $400.
Yeah.
And it packs the wallop in the hand. I mean, it feels... the R7 initially, I didn't like, you know, the bezels. I feel like it looks like a phone from 2013.
Well, because we have them all in our pockets right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could draw our inspiration right now.
So. Well, and then the meeting with the designer.
I guess my perspective on the R7 is because I use the R5 and I really like the R5. I was like, okay, they took a step back. It's how can I say this? It's perspective. You know, whenever you see something big, it's like if the iPhone got smaller on the next generation. You know, your immediate perspective will not be positive; it'll be negative. So it's just that. It's the fact that they reduced the size of it. If they would have kept the same 5.2 inches, if they would have figured out how to keep it as thin and just...
How thin is it? I mean,
it was like 6.8. I think it was
6.46. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah.
We should know.
I know.
I'm pretty sure it was 6.8.
It's been a long few days.
It really has. And few is not even the word to describe it. We've been here for like 2 days.
Yeah.
No time at all, really.
24-hour haul to get here, you know?
Exactly, yeah. Well, I mean, Jaime had the worst of it. So.
No comment.
You're saying with a smile, so it's not that bad.
Yeah. He can look back on it, let's put it that way. I haven't heard from James over here. Like,
hello. Sorry.
Just our resident Brit for today is just kind of chilling on the side. And actually, I don't know if I'm going to put this in the beginning or at the end of the podcast, but us talking about our ages, he's the youngest one now.
Yeah, 22.
22. I'm usually the youngest one. I just make me feel old.
And how old are you?
25.
25.
Yeah. I know 25, like a quarter life crisis, but...
What I would give... Shut up, what I would give...
I mean, imagine being a phone. You know, if you're 1 year old, you feel really old.
Yeah.
You're like old news. Nobody wants to touch you.
That should be a new term, like smartphone years. That's like
right.
That's like 12 years,
like a cat, right?
Well,
7 years or something.
The only phone that would be
the
only phone that would be the exception is the LG G2. People are still going crazy.
I love that freaking phone.
Yeah, I love that you said that because now Nicole's going, yeah.
Yeah.
She was planning on the two of you talking about the G2 on the FDP.
I know.
It's still one of the best phones ever made, in my opinion. First with OIS. 1080p panel, killer battery life, and now you can get it for like $180 now, new.
And I love the feel of that phone in the hand. I don't know, it was just something about the materials of the phone, even if it was plastic. I don't know what it was, but it just felt really good. It felt substantial.
Well, everyone was really like weirded out by that back button layout.
Yeah, but after you get the hang of it, man, for taking quick pictures,
oh, yeah,
like you're in your pocket, like stroking the button.
And you didn't even need to. You could just double tap to wake the front.
Once you're used to it, I love it because I've got the G Flex 2 at the moment. It's just sat there on the back.
Yeah,
like, bam, perfect. It's so well, and the volume rocker is just there.
And plus the whole idea that like you could the G2 and the G3 before the G4, like. Is anyone else sick of having to the double tap on the volume down button to open up the camera and the double tap on the
I didn't know you could do that.
You could do that, but it's so not reliable. Holding it down like in the G2 and G3 was so much better.
Yeah.
Honestly, they were a lot better.
I suppose the problem with that is when it's in your pocket, there's going to be a lot of times that it's going to be held down in your pocket, isn't it?
I suppose so. I really don't think that's truly the case in most cases. But like, anyway, back on topic here. Like, we didn't hear from you, James, about how you felt about the factory. You were right next to me, snapping away.
Yeah.
You're taller than me, so you swooped me on a bunch of shots.
18 feet tall.
That was my first factory tour as well. 18 feet. Yeah.
I'm just trying to take a picture of this angle, and I could just see his hand above me. Like, oh, that's a nice shot
fighting
too.
for it. Yeah.
That is definitely convenient.
Right. Yeah, that was the first factory tour I've ever done as well. And again, I was impressed that we actually got to see so much, and then we got to photograph so much as well. I really didn't think they would let us in on that much.
Yeah, we were rushed a little bit.
Yeah, but I think we were rushed for time more than anything, rather than being pushed through. But yeah, I was very impressed by the amount we got to see.
I can't remember. What did we do yesterday? I'm trying to remember.
They launched the product.
Oh, man, the launch.
What didn't
For the
we do?
R7 Plus.
It's just...
Yesterday was a jam. We worked out.
that was amazing.
We actually worked out with Jaime and with our buddy Sean
King, who's Alpha Male Hercules.
Oppo's
But
Hercules.
it's just we've compressed so much in such a short period of time that it feels like it's been like a week here at least.
We're still conscious.
That's what happens when you don't sleep.
I'm surprised I'm still awake.
John was telling me just about like I was asking him, because I was looking at the faces of the workers, and just there's so many of them, and they were looking at us kind of like we had all these VIP caps on and everything. But I was asking, tell me about like the workers, like are they happy, like are they well compensated, and he went on to tell me that they, from where they come from, they receive extremely good compensation, and they are allowed to and encouraged to bring their families out. Accommodations provided. Education's facilitated, healthcare's provided, and they really want to have like really happy workers. And when you have companies that just produce a creative idea, AutoCAD, a 3D design, and they outsource to an ODM, like I feel like the soul is cut.
Yeah.
Like the soul is not transferred. But with a company like Oppo, it's kind of like UPS is a completely, or McDonald's even, it's an interdependent company. Everything is controlled from the top to the bottom, and I don't know. For me, like all of the phones have an extremely nice style, and I don't know.
There's like this certain je ne sais quoi when it comes to Oppo. Like, even just holding this R7 in my hand, I'm just like, this might be one of the best feeling phones I've held
really
this year so far. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, whereas curves or like the in thing and everything, just a nice flat device sometimes just can really do it. And even then, Oppo's trying to put curves in here, 2.5D glass, violent arc. Like I'm still not sure about that. It's just 2.5D back. You should have just said that.
Yeah.
What do you think about the price point?
I think it's very competitive.
Really?
Honestly, I think it is.
But
considering the quality of the design material, because we have what's the other alternative? The $250 Idol 3, obviously.
And we have the Zenfone 2.
And they have this.
Yeah, but the Idol 3 is not in this market, is it?
Not particularly. Yeah.
And the Idol 3 is plastic.
It's plastic. It doesn't, but it has the same specs.
It's IPS.
No, but remember, this is an ISO-cell camera, which we still have to prove.
RGBW.
That one is an IMX. I think it's a
210
IMX,
or 215.
Yeah,
maybe.
It's like the really low Sony sensor.
Low mid.
Yeah.
So I mean, looking at it in a scope, I mean, you're obviously paying for less things in the lesser Idol 3, but with that in mind, paying for this kind of premium quality, I think it makes sense,
And the Plus.
And the Plus, which
It's a hell of a phone.
I got my question in at our dinner, so I was happy about that. Like, so I really wanted to hear what they were going to say about like the R7 Plus looking like a Mate 7. Like I really wanted to hear what her response to be. And you know what? The answer was correct in the interview. We're just trying to provide what our users would want. If it turns out that the design is actually kind of falling in line with what is already available, then, well...
it makes sense.
Right?
Now, if you had to pick, like if they could only send you one for review, which one would you ask for?
I would say the R7 Plus because I focus on the camera so much.
Yeah.
And it is
laser?
it is the better camera objectively. It has more to offer.
So I'm kind of confused. I thought that the ISO-cell sensor, the Samsung ISO-cell sensor, was superior to this Sony IMX.
Well, of course that's going to be the claim, but it's the construction in the sensor, and I'm still... I mean, the
This
science...
is a very controversial topic
Exactly.
that we should avoid if possible.
The science behind it was still, kind of debatable whether or not it was subjectively better than these other sensors
Well,
and whatnot?
I mean, okay, there's two things that need to be talked about. First is Samsung doesn't actually have any public disclosure of the fact that they make a 13 megapixel ISO cell on their product page.
True.
Actually, they stopped talking about it too.
They completely stopped. And the second thing that's connected is that the Galaxy S6, which, as I think we'll all agree, arguably has the best camera of any Android phone in the world.
Which one?
S6.
S6.
And the S6 Edge. They alternate between the ISO cell and the IMX240. And to correlate to that, as I read some Sony financial transcripts, they've ran out of IMX240 sensors because they sold so many to Asian partners and South Korean partners over the last 6 months. And that's why Samsung used the ISO cell. But nobody complained because the quality is so stellar on both.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about the S5, just putting this example out there, the S5 is still a great camera, and it's proved it.
It's old news, though.
Well, yeah. Well, you bring up the word ISO cell for God's sake.
Yeah.
The S5. My mom just went on a trip to Scotland, Ireland, and the UK. Didn't bring a camera with her. Just brought her S5 and a selfie stick.
Mama like that?
Came back. Those are some of the best photos I've seen. And after I taught her like rule of thirds and
Oh yeah, you're a good
but
son.
she was able to come back with a lot of great photos that she didn't need a real camera for.
Who needs a real camera?
Nowadays it's starting to become that way.
I think these are the times when you don't.
Yeah.
You simply don't.
Absolutely.
And but okay, going back to the topic of the R7 and R7 Plus, are any of you disappointed with the fact that there are bezels on this display of the R7 Plus?
On the R7, not so much, but on the R7 Plus, yeah.
What? I feel the other way around. The R7 is too aggressive in its bezel, and the R7 Plus
But
is
at
much
five,
better.
but at 5 inches, the
Yeah.
handling is still perfect.
Well, but that
Yes.
so I guess I was a little. So I would, if I had to pick, I would definitely pick the R7 Plus.
Yeah.
Not because of the camera. I really like the added security of the fingerprint scanner. That's me.
and the
for me,
laser focus too.
Yeah, and the laser focus.
Yeah,
like
that's what I mean, yeah.
those are the two things. And that 4100 milliamp hour battery,
That's insane.
that must be insane. So
They've stacked the deck because it's 4,100 milliamp hours with VOOC fast
with
charging.
VOOC.
That's
Like, yeah.
ridiculous.
Well, but
You're
it's
never gonna
not.
run out.
It's not. I think that's like a great thing, you know.
And thin as hell too.
and thin as hell. But for me,
7.75.
I guess, you know, I'm glad that in the presentation they didn't sit down and say we are launching a phone without bezels, because there are bezels on the R7 Plus. You know, even if, you know, we hype the rumors that there weren't any, well, there aren't in the chassis design, but there is this huge black bar around the display within the chassis that is pretty much a bezel that's just not covered by white film. But these are bezels.
How about the presentation? What did you think about the launch? Now, keeping in mind that they were celebrating a 10-year anniversary.
Yeah, they didn't really push it that much, did they? It was quite.
I think they did.
Yeah,
I think they
but
did.
it was quite humble at the same time.
A lot
I
of
think.
self-
It was very.
You think humble? Humble's the word you're gonna use?
Self-deprecation.
I don't know. There were a few moments where they just kind of said, "Yeah, we know we've done this wrong," and
Okay.
When
I'll
they
give
talked
you
about
that.
ColorOS, the first thing they
ColorOS,
led,
they led
you and I were
didn't
looking at
they?
each other
Yeah.
laughing.
Yeah, it was just like, "Whoa,
They're
okay,
like-
you really want to start on that?"
Yeah, they're
Well-
like, the first thing they said is like, we've received a lot of complaints.
Okay.
End of press conference. And we all go home.
We like complaints.
It might be true, but what I would keep remembering from it is, and this, I haven't really had this experience with a phone company launch since Samsung, where you had a host that had to react to the information. She obviously knew already.
Okay, yeah, true,
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah, right? Like, oh, we're going to show you a video, and she'll come back on stage and go, simply amazing. like,
Okay, yeah. I think I'm just desensitized to a lot of that.
So I don't know. I think that, and for those of you that didn't watch the event or weren't able to see it, it was more of a Q&A than anything else. I don't think
that was an interesting structure.
I don't think that was necessary.
Oh, okay.
I think that it would have been like, you never see Q&As from anybody, you know, from the higher end companies. They are like, these are our new strategies, this is what we're doing, we've heard some feedback, and this is the new product. The problem with the Q&As are that they wander around and you know,
You
even
can just cut out the middleman and come out with the facts, and you don't
Yeah.
need to ask the question.
There was some pretense. That's what I'm thinking.
exactly.
Some pretense.
I don't think it was necessary. I'm not going to criticize the event. I guess I just feel that it could have been better, and the fact that it didn't really need a Q&A. It could have been a quicker event, more practical. I mean, they were so off focus with, you know, with asking the guy different questions and stuff, that we didn't really get the meat over how a lot of things are being implemented.
Well, I'm a communication major. I'm always going to notice those kinds of, there's always like the underlying tones to things. But that being said, the event was pretty supremely held. Not really much of a
beautiful.
We were there at the Singapore
yeah.
launch, and wow, that was a crazy town. Like it was nuts in that launch. Like
oh god,
yeah,
they do seem to kind of go all out.
Yeah, I'm cracking up over that moment where you're like, wait for it. They're gonna launch the phone either from the sky, or they're gonna lift it from the floor,
yeah,
and then all the media, ladies and gentlemen, please, you can come take photographs, and then everybody would just go crazy walking up the stage and interrupting the event.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I was waiting for that to happen.
That's because the N1 was it the one? Was the N1 the one that came from the ceiling? Yeah, it was the N3. No, it was the N3 or the Find 7. Was it Find 7? Could have been the Find 7.
I'm really not sure.
Because so the story behind that. The story behind that is I remember sitting in the aisle during the whatever launch that was. I want to say it was N1 or Find 7. Probably Find 7. And I'm sitting in the aisle, and they're all like, "Ladies and gentlemen, the Oppo Find 7." And then I just saw this box slowly appear to my right. Then I was like, no, number one, I was freaked out. But then number two, this was the worst thing they could have done. U.S. fire code regulations would not have allowed this out. The host goes, "Everyone take a look at it for the next 10 minutes. And the press, I had 20 people strong on my left, ready to just maul that device. And me, I had already got my pre-briefing. I didn't need to do anything.
Right.
I got trampled. They were just trying to walk over me. And it's like, oh my god, that's the phone. Even knowing that we're going to have an experience center right after the launch time. So that's the part that got. I was like, oh. It's crazy. But Oppo does seem to go all out.
Yeah,
most
definitely.
of the time. And even for something that you could say is a mid-range. But that's the thing. Like we're blurring
the divide, doesn't it?
What's this whole thing about blurring the line so much now? Mid-range on the inside feels fast.
Tell me something. I mean,
I know Lollipop has holes, and I know there's always problems with Lollipop.
so if that phone with its current specifications were running stock Android, would you consider it to be mid-range?
As long as it's a very snappy experience, no. As long as it goes smoothly and I don't find any
because what's an iPhone?
Well, we're talking about two completely different ecosystems.
I know, two completely different ecosystems, but, like the higher-end Windows phone is a mid-range Android phone, and the same goes for...
We don't talk about Windows Phone here, man.
I know. But I guess the point that I'm making is I don't consider that to be mid-range.
I suppose, it depends on your scope. Snapdragon from 0 to 815, like... The 600 is usually considered a little bit more mid. 400 is the budget phone.
Yeah.
If you were to consider the 600 like this compared to, let's say, a Moto G, yeah, this feels more premium. This feels like more higher end. And if it was stock Android and this performs smoother than the Moto G did, then yeah, I would say it's still a higher to mid range.
Like they said though, the 3 gigabytes of RAM, the difference makes it substantial.
Yeah.
And 615 is a 64-bit capable processor, so it's going to have way better performance than even if it was like a Snapdragon 800, which was a really great processor a year and a half ago. Still going to be better than the 800 in terms of throughput and power efficiency.
Yeah, but the thing is, to your point, an Apple phone, the iOS is engineered to not have to take up as many resources as what Android does. Android is a Unix-based system. It almost runs a little bit like a PC in the sense that when you run an app, it has to take up a certain amount of memory, it has to take up a certain amount of this and that, and run in the background.
Well, iOS is a Unix-based system as well.
It is, but I mean, it's been
No, I get your point.
You know
I get your point. I get your point.
It's been
Much lighter
catered to,
operating
what is
system.
it, 756 megabyte
Yeah.
of RAM? Like,
Yeah.
what in the world? You know? Which, to their credit, is incredible. But at the same time, it's, there's two different ecosystems that we're talking about.
And the camera on this phone, man, on the R7, it looks identical.
Yeah, they
to an
they took a
iPhone.
lot of elements from iOS.
They were really inspired.
You know what really got me though? I didn't feel the need to mention it because those things were in previous versions of ColorOS. Especially the recent app screen, which is like the glaring similarity.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been in ColorOS for...
No, for me,
Wow.
ColorOS is the only thing. It's got to go. I tried during the
You
Q&A.
really don't like this one stuff?
I tried during the Q&A to be as polite as possible over how much I despise
Look
it.
how the icons float up.
Ooh.
Isn't that nice?
No.
Purists are gonna hate it, but I mean, it looks beautiful.
You know, it's really not the fact that it's that pure. I think that there was a time when Android was horrible. Back in the time of Froyo. Back in the time of Froyo. Back in the time of Eclair, it was horrible.
Yep.
Then
it made sense.
Then came gingerbread. Then came ice cream sandwich.
I love gingerbread.
And it was like, okay, there's no more need for HTC Sense back then. It was necessary in the times of Froyo, you remember that. But afterwards it wasn't, so...
Man, Sense back then, man.
This is a big deal.
But compare Sense...
So good.
Yeah, exactly. Sense was a million times better than stock Android. Anything was better than stock Android. And so you're now given the option to... I mean, do you really need Color OS? I mean, Lollipop is, in my opinion, personal opinion, so good looking that it's not necessary for you to have
What would you
to
replace
scale.
it with, knowing that here in this market we're sitting in right now, in the middle of Shenzhen, China, that if you had stock Android without Google Play services?
You know, I would just... True, you're making a good point there. You're making an amazing point there, yeah.
You know what I mean?
They kept talking about consumer surveys, you know.
No, I
But
understand.
they're all based in Asia.
And that's what I told them. That's what I told them in the Q&A. It's like, okay, I do know that you guys have gotten your market figured out, but you guys want to expand globally.
That's a good point, yeah.
So what I was like, okay, if you would at least give me a stock Android skin, Color OS, fine, but with a stock Android skin, how difficult could that
Or at
be?
the very least an app drawer.
This is the jelly bean theme and everything.
I don't really miss the app drawer. It's funny. I really don't miss that. For
Because
me,
you use an iPhone half the time?
well, yeah, you're right.
I think I
I'm on
noticed
fire right now.
You hate me.
like, when we got to sit down with the designers, we asked some really good questions. Derek Ross asked some really good questions. Jaime, you're always on fire. You're like the Jesus of phones. But anyway.
Jesus.
But anyway, I asked them the question, because they're all like, yeah, customers want simplicity, blah, 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 blah. And so I asked them, what about the theming engine? What about the ability to control more?
Yeah.
And then they just completely didn't answer my question.
Well, how do you think I felt when I was...
Yeah.
I wanted to hear from the horse's mouth how their camera software is engineered.
It's only because
what things are you looking to compensate for in what might not be a great photo straight from the sensor? And what I got was, it shoots video.
Yeah. I mean, they totally FDP'd up. And
Don't do that to our podcast.
They did, man. I mean, whatever they did, whatever they were smoking or snorting or injecting, I don't know, but it was not good.
But the thing is, was I really surprised that was the response I got? No, of course not.
No.
It was just another disappointment that, you know, if feedback is very important to them, then we should be getting the same exact feedback.
Well, I mean, everything's going through a translator.
I know what to do the next time I come to one of these, and I told James
But
this.
you know, I guess I'm wondering if they were really expecting this to be a session of feedback.
Yeah.
Maybe so.
Dun, dun, dun.
I wonder because I think it was more like
It was like a verbal commercial.
it's like a verbal commercial.
Yeah.
And they all wore
what
glasses.
inspires Pure Imaging 2.0 or
2.1.
or what made you come up with ColorOS 2.1? You know, I guess they were expecting those types of questions, and then here I come and I tell them, why is the camera on the M3 so bad?
One day, the company that even if their camera's shitty, the company that gives me a straight, honest answer as to why they made their choices in the camera is the one I'll respect the most. And I told James, I want to come in with like an 11 by 12 photo, 4:3 aspect ratio, whatever, from a camera that could be considered mid-range, like let's say a Moto G.
Yeah.
I'll blow up a picture from a Moto G, put it right in front of them and say, notice in this picture you have like a lot of grain here, you have the details aren't really great, the color is not that. How would your camera, what would you do to your camera software to make this photo better?
It's like when I asked them about the HDR. I showed you my HDR photos from Andorra. I mean, there's this like white bridge in the middle of the lake. You can't really even see the damn bridge. And so I'm like, okay, it becomes pointless for you to have HDR. It's a really dark day. I wanted to pull out to not overbloat the white of the bridge with the shot, and HDR just completely destroyed the photo.
Yeah.
And so their response was that they did that intentionally because it's what their customers want. And I'm like, okay, I really don't understand the purpose of crappy HDR as something that customers would really want. But, I guess I felt a little downplayed with the comment that the guy said. He was like, oh, I'm a professional photographer and this and this and this. And I'm like, okay, I'm not a professional photographer. 99% of your customers aren't either. It's great for you to have 1,000 shooting modes on your camera, but the problem is that people don't really want that. What is so special about the Galaxy S6? What's so special about the Note Edge? What's so special about the iPhone? The fact that you don't have to be switching around modes to get the right shot at the moment that you want it. All you do is you pull the damn camera out and you clip. A professional photographer is not going to be using a smartphone to take an important shot. He'll be carrying his DSLR. That's just the way it's going to be.
I mean, the whole notion that a professional photographer will endorse a smartphone camera is a little bit ridiculous to me, because that professional photographer will still go to an event. We will still go to the money. So I mean, obviously that's part of it, but that professional photographer will obviously go to an event that he's getting paid for and use a real camera, a full frame camera. It's always going to be a ridiculous notion to me, because the professional photographer should be able to see that this photo from this phone, doesn't matter what phone it is, even an S6 or an iPhone, and think, I won't get paid for that photo. So that's why I just thought it was a little odd.
The average consumer just wants to take a picture of their cat as soon as possible.
Exactly. The cat is currently static. He's not moving. Now I want to
move
jump.
fast.
That's all you want, is not to blur it.
Oh yeah, no, he's
like ADD.
Ichi's a crazy one. Like,
I remember when I started using the
Ichigo.
Oh, it is it?
Yeah.
I remember when I started using the Note Edge. I was in Barcelona, and there was a sunset and everything, and it was just amazingly beautiful sunset. And I just remember that moment when I pulled up the camera towards the sun, and the software immediately drew the sun, immediately marked. You're pointing at the sun. I'm going to compensate for everything else, and I'm like, this is it.
And that's why you're rocking that.
Edge.
This is it. They figured it out.
Even though it's a phone that looks like it had a stroke.
It is. Listen, okay. So I remember there was a time when I went on this trip with the family with the Lumia 930 to test the rich capture features, and I guess that I took a Sony NEX5M that I have, and I took the Lumia, and I took photos at the same time, and the Lumia would automatically underexpose for the lighting, and then the Sony would underexpose, and the Lumia would automatically compensate for everything. And so I'm like, this is the thing. It's a smartphone. You have the opportunity to process after you take the photo and give users a better photo that compensates for everything. That's what Lumias do. That's what the Galaxy that's what the Galaxy phones do now. And so that's the thing. It's like there are times when smartphones can do a better job because they have the processing power.
And it all happens in real time.
It all happens in real time. You can't, what processors or what the technology is in cameras right now. You don't see that yet. Or at least that's what I think.
Well, that's the reason why I give LG so much credit.
Yeah.
It's because they actually said the things that photographers want to hear.
Yeah.
Lower aperture doesn't make sense without a bigger sensor. What else? They mentioned the very notion that smartphones are trying to. we just got a LED flash in the face.
LED flash.
We have a bit of an audience for our show today. That's really cool.
Expert tech bloggers.
Yeah, well, it's still a group of tech bloggers. Yeah. But the thing that I loved at the LG event, and this is what I'm looking for when I ask the questions about smartphone cameras, is just something to this effect. Oh yeah. Obviously, smartphone cameras these days are trying to make easy the craft that people like me or you learned over years of practice in the world of photography. Now it's just at your fingertips and you don't have to know a thing.
Right.
Can I have a little bit of a nerd moment here?
Yeah.
So the best research dictates, like iPhone 7, and I hate to use iPhone, but like the The fact is they have like hundreds of billions of dollars of cash at their disposal. But the next major breakthrough for smartphone cameras has to do with something called a MEMS sensor. And MEMS is really special because MEMS...
The periscope design?
Essentially...
The L shape?
Not quite like that. MEMS are highly miniaturized nano... for lack of a better term, I wouldn't use the word particles, but MEMS essentially, it miniaturizes an SLR type lens, and it's able to, how should I say, basically you're able to increase the focal length and manipulate that within a highly miniaturized package. And with that, you're able to go as low as like f like 0.8, f 0.9. And with that f-stop, like, you're going to be able to create crazy bokeh.
Yeah.
And also beyond that too, now we're going to be looking at like double or quadruple the size of the image sensors. And so we're finally, like, by 2017, 2018, we're going to be dealing with like digital SLR quality.
I think didn't we see the term MEMS last year?
We did.
Yeah, MEMS is come and gone, but it's like it's really difficult to work because you're dealing with a ton of moving parts, and it's all controlled.
Where was it though? I don't
remember. It was in an Apple patent.
Yeah.
And I think it was in a Samsung patent as well.
Yeah. Samsung's making them, Sony's making them. Sony has industry leadership in terms of camera sensor.
Yeah.
But we are going to begin to see that.
They make so much money selling off the cameras, but
I guess the point that I guess the point that I'm looking for is, and by the way, disclaimer, I am no professional photographer at all.
Yeah, you are.
I'm not.
You're Jaime Rivera. Fucking now.
You gotta do the shoulder shake.
Can you say you're Jaime Rivera fucking now, please? Please.
Yeah, no.
You said that, and it's been viewed by millions of people.
Come on, pronounce it correctly. Jaime Rivera.
I can't do that.
All right.
Would you be willing to do the FDP intro with me later? That
Sure.
way we can get you yeah.
Jaime.
So here's the thing. Truly, smartphone cameras are not DSLRs.
Yeah. No,
They're
that's
not.
never going to happen.
That's never going to happen. But here's the thing. They don't have to be. They don't have to be. 20, 30, how many people could afford a DSLR 20, 30 years ago? You remember how much camera equipment would cost 30 years ago?
How much?
Thousands of dollars.
Yeah, we've never been in a... This is the best time to get into photography.
Yes.
Hands down.
And so what about the whole Sony thing? You know, I remember seeing Ken Hong, he's the global communications director at LG, and he was insulting Sony on Facebook, saying like, who's going to pay $240 for a portable image sensor Bluetooth that has an f-stop of 2.8? Like, check out our G4. You know, it's got a 1.8. You know, it's in a phone.
Where were you going with the...
So the point is, I don't think there's a need to compete with an SLR. You know, there is a market for SLRs, just like there's a market for race cars. There's a market for SUVs. There are people out there. The average consumer doesn't want to haul a huge camera. They want to carry the most practical one they can carry and have it do a good job.
Yeah.
Oh, but then, and you're right. But all I ask is that you draw your inspiration from the DSLR world.
True.
And make it clear.
True. That's a valid point. And I guess the other point is that, you know, even though, sure, you have to draw your inspiration, I think that next year, or probably later this year, is going to be extremely interesting.
Note 5?
Yes, the Note 5, but it's just Samsung and LG have raised the bar so much.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they have.
And God bless them.
God bless them. It is just, I guess that was the point that I was trying to make to Oppo today. You cannot launch a product like the N3 or make it the N5 next year and launch it with a mediocre camera. It is just pointless.
Yeah.
Particularly the N3 or the future N5, whatever the number is going to be. That phone is really, the novelty is really the camera. Yeah. There is no points for second place now when it comes to camera quality.
Like you said, you wanted to champion the camera so hard because that Schneider, motorized rotating camera, it has all the hardware necessary to be so excellent.
But then the software.
They just went and, I'm just going to say they fucked it up.
They put the same software of every other phone.
That's what I'm saying. Like, the software has to draw its inspiration.
Exactly.
Right.
From what? Look at how even an entry level Canon JPEG's
SD100.
JPEG's a photo, and mimic that. do that.
Yeah,
In
true.
the scope of your sensor. That's all I want to know is what's happening. All right,
True.
it's not going to be a super long FDP this week, but it is a double feature, so I hope our audience is enjoying. You're hearing us clinking our.
Well, we worked hard from it.
Cheers.
Yeah,
Cheers.
no, we're having a great time.
Cheers, guys.
We have
Cheers,
we have
listeners.
we have a two-person audience. We had a fourth here who didn't talk that much. Sorry, James.
That's all right.
But I am going to give everyone a chance to give their just R7 Plus, starting with Darcy. Your verdict. Your first look verdict. We're doing our full review
Yeah.
soon, but
I mean, there's
your thoughts where we are right
Jeez,
now.
Josh, there's a lot of things that go into this. You know, I'm always focused on the business end of things, go-to-market strategy, all that lame shit. But in reality, like consumers who want like a really good mid-range phone, you know, they're going to do the least path of resistance to get that phone. And so it all depends on localization. For American consumers, you know, they have the Zenfone 2 launch now, $199, excellent phone. Battery life's questionable, and I still don't believe in Intel's mobile strategy. Like, the battery life sucks. But Idle Touch 3,
There you go.
excellent phone. I mean, equivalent specs for the most part, except for the AMOLED screen and the subpar image
Which
sensor.
I thought the AMOLED screen was a nice touch.
but it's
No.
half the price.
Yeah.
It's half
Dude,
the price.
that IPS display on that Alcatel was really good.
It was good.
It was probably one of the best IPS displays I've
Yeah,
seen.
no, it's excellent. I mean, I'm always looking back, you know, at like the flagships from 2013 and 14, like the G2, which was awesome. But focusing on today and focusing on, you know, what Oppo has done, I think that they've done an excellent job. And, you know, consumers actually don't care about specs. They're going to go, you know, 90% of the world's consumers who aren't in the United States are going to go to a stand that's like glass, and they're going to pick up a phone, and they're going to feel the beautiful chamfered edges.
I was about to say, I
They're
can
gonna-
see so many users just picking up
They
and going,
experience the extremely the punchy colors of it, the rapid camera.
I'll have it.
And they're
Yeah.
going to be extremely attracted to the R7 Plus in particular,
what's
particularly in
the term
Asia
of-
and developing markets.
Yeah.
in for one.
I think it's going to be a really hot item. I commend them for bringing back the headphone jack.
Yeah, that was needed, I think.
And speaking to the larger picture of what they've done here, like having attended a lot of media workshops in the past, like the fact that they were so transparent,
Yeah.
and they were so open and just, you know, human and willing to admit their mistakes along the way and let us talk to the designer. Like I was really, I don't know, the whole soul of Oppo. Like I really got to say, ever since the beginning with the Find 5, you know,
Really dig it, right? Really
I
dig
really dig it, man.
Yeah.
And yeah, of course this is Samsung camera, and yeah, this is a Samsung panel, but like they put it all together in a way that a lot of companies never could have done. So I commend it.
Yeah.
it. All right. Let me pop over. Okay, so while you play with the light, James. What,
Yeah, that really killed my buzz.
Yeah.
yeah, right? I know, it got dark all of a sudden. So, your thoughts
I have
on the...
no idea what I'm doing.
There you go.
There we go.
That is not what you want to say before I ask you how you feel about the R7.
About the light.
This is a different look though.
So is the question R7 or R7 Plus?
In general, like how what are your thoughts? Give us your thoughts on the phones, because we gave our thoughts about today's factory tour and the event yesterday. But your thoughts on the phone to end.
Reasonably impressed. I much prefer the Plus personally, but that's because I prefer the bigger screen and I like the fingerprint sensor.
Okay.
Just from playing around with it, obviously we didn't get that much time with it, but it seemed to be really reactive. Seemed to be kind of perfect for it. Yeah, I just prefer the whole look of the Plus and everything. But the R7 is still a beautiful phone.
Yeah.
It's still, you've got it right there. But it's just, yeah, it's just. I agree. Everyone's going to walk into a shop, pick that up, and go, yeah, I've kind of had that. That's that'd be fine. They're not going to worry about the software on it. They're not going to worry about that kind of.
Yeah, I mean, what's the device of the future supposed to look like? A
Yeah.
transparent piece of glass that has hollow elements on top of it. You know, and right now you're looking at one of the thinnest phones that are available that kind of gives you that somewhat sense of feeling. You know, and it just
It's thin, but it doesn't feel like it's going to fly out of your hand.
there's some heft to it,
which is nice.
Yeah. Can we excuse the camera considering the price point and considering that this is supposed to be classified as sort of a mid-range phone?
But by the way, I mean, if it's a nice,
We have further testing to do.
Yeah,
dude. I mean, this is what it's PV. What stage is it in?
and it's not final software yet.
What was
It's
it? What was it
not-
called? DVT,
I think it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
So it's real. We can't judge it yet.
Yeah, we can't truly judge it yet.
Like, for example,
but the thing is, in the few pictures that we have been able to take over the last day or so, like for the most part, it hasn't really performed too badly.
Yeah.
So
I've not had anything horrible yet.
Yeah,
I've had
exactly.
I've had good and I've had kind of not really, but I haven't had real bad photos taken from me yet.
Exactly.
Nothing horrendous.
And then you think about, and it's easy to think like, oh, we're in a good place when it comes to cameras and software for that matter. But cameras, when you think back to like Find 5, you know, like I remember the Find 5. That's one of my favorite phones ever. But that camera was just not usable.
Yeah.
I just could not use that on the day. I agree. I think that the R7 is a nice. The R7 Plus, yes, I still can't not see the Mate 7 in it.
Yeah,
which is the reason why, in terms of design, I focus on the R7 more.
Yeah.
And it's an engineering feat to me because it's just so simplistic. It's very thin. Feels wonderful in the hand. The thing that I can't stop doing on this phone is pressing the buttons.
Really?
They're so meaty. Like they're so nice.
You just keep pleasing them,
right? Like, just press it all day. Like in the factory when they had that machine that pushes the buttons, like for 42,000 times.
You want to be that
a day.
machine?
I would just want to put my fingers there. I just that feels nice. But really, the phone just feels so nice. AMOLED screen at 5 inches, 1080p. Right now, you can call that the bare minimum, but it's the great bare minimum. You know, and the camera, as long as it performs pretty well, I think we're going to have a pretty good device here at like what, $400.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, I'm constantly looking for phones that if my girlfriend or my friends end up dropping their phones, I'm like, oh, it's all good. Here, just buy this one. And right now, the Idol 3 has that crown.
Yeah.
At $250. But you know, pay $150 more. This might be a hell of a device. Or you should know. I was going to end on you, Jaime. Like, your verdict.
My verdict. Ooh, I like the R7. I would recommend it. You know.
Actually, sorry to interrupt you there. I just wanted to ask real quick. Does it really matter that these are capacitive keys compared to soft? Are we really up in arms about this debate?
Okay, so here's the thing. Like, I've always been against capacitive keys. Always. Particularly because if you're trying to, like, if you're holding the phone to try to take a photograph, it is extremely easy for you to press these buttons and leave the viewfinder. You're playing a game, and it is extremely easy for you to press them and leave the game. It happens to me all the time. And that's the reason why I like either on-screen buttons or a hardware physical key.
I just realized, too, they don't light up.
Yeah, and neither did they in the R5. They didn't. Because of how thin the chassis was. And so I never like capacitive buttons. So no, I don't like that. That's actually one of the reasons. So I like the R7. It's not a bad phone. On the contrary, it's very well designed. I feel that they've refined. I felt that the R5 was very well refined, and they just took it a step further and focused on things that are important, like the headphone jack. But I think that the R7 Plus is just so futuristic. You know, the design of the display is just so futuristic looking that I could just not stop looking at the display. I couldn't stop looking at the display. This looks so cool.
You're lucky you've got that big battery.
Yeah.
If you're just staring at it.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of people are going to be like, oh, it's only 1080p. And I'm like, dude, you are not going to see pixels. Stop complaining. No. What? You're not going to see pixels.
It's tequila.
You're not going to see pixels. Stop complaining. So, again, in my case, R7 Plus, but just because I'm a geek.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, obviously, this entire group that we're sitting with right now, we're gonna get our review unit soon enough. We're gonna give you all of our reviews and all of our final thoughts. But yeah, it's been one hell of a last couple of days.
Yeah,
it really has, and it's one.
Yeah, it feels more like a week, to be honest.
Exactly, which is the reason why we are recording outside of where we're staying.
Yeah,
in the middle of the night at 1 a.m. almost. And right now, it looks like we're about to have shots. What is going on over here?
Are we going to do shots live on the podcast?
Of course.
This is how we're ending, and this is it's very serendipitous that it's going to happen. All right, well, let me do my outro, and we're going to end it at the end. All right, so.
Yeah.
All right, I want to give a thanks to our audience here. I will have named you guys off in our intro as well, so I'm going to go and let them know who was around for the FDP today. I want to give James a nice... tell them where they can find you.
TechRadar. Well, how do you usually do this? Yeah,
on social media, Twitter,
on
Instagram,
Twitter, I'm at James RWP. and I usually write for TechRadar.
All right, cool.
That's me.
And of course, Jaime Rivera over here.
Yeah.
The distinguished Jaime Rivera.
The distinguished.
Jaime
And
Rivera, Jaime_Rivera on Twitter or Jaime Rivera on Instagram.
Awesome. And
Those
of
are my
course,
favorites.
we were able to get Darcy back on the show again. That's really awesome. And it's good that we always do it when we're together rather than telecommuting it.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
So, which is what the FDP usually is, but it's all good.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed the FDP. A little bit of a shorter episode for you guys, but it was also a double feature today because I gave you last week's episode also. Why did you get last week's episode? I was in the air when I wanted to put it out.
In the sky.
I was in the sky. I was busy in my business
You're such a
class
baller.
seat.
I hate you.
I know.
Oh my God. As soon as I saw
had
that-
nothing to do with it.
You
Yeah,
got
right, you did.
business
They're
seat
just
B, and I
bribing
got
you.
bathroom seat. Like,
Yeah.
I'll try to remember.
I was
which
in
one.
cargo.
Well, so I hope you guys enjoyed the double episodes of the FDP that were available today. And yeah, remember, if you're on the YouTube channel, you'll see a little bit of extra footage. Our intro had not just me, but Jaime on our intro that we're going to do in a few minutes or in a little bit, whenever. And yeah, keep it tuned to our YouTube channel. Drop us some likes on our video, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and remember to head on over to AndroidAuthority.com for even more, and including TechRadar stuff, GSM Arena, and Pocketnow as well, because we all are your source for all things, and together, everybody,
Ooh.
Android.
Hey.
No one said Android.
Tequila.
Bottoms up, guys.
You're a source for tequila.